The stillness does not fall abruptly. It seeps in gradually, refining the atmosphere until even the insects seem to hesitate, as though something in the earth has whispered for them to pause. Within that silence, the lion rests stretched beneath the sun. His frame tilts slightly downhill where the ground has surrendered to his weight. His chest rises and falls with strain, each breath shallow and irregular, barely disturbing the dust settled on his fur. The heat bears down relentlessly, and his tail lies motionless, no longer swatting at flies. Nothing within him fights the quiet anymore. At some distance, the lioness traces a broad, uncertain arc. She does not draw near. Her footsteps are cautious, measured, hoarding whatever vitality remains. Hunger has carved her form lean, hollowed the sinew along her shoulders, diminished the grace that once flowed through her motion. She pauses frequently, raising her head to taste the breeze, ears swiveling slowly as if sound might materialize if she listens intently enough. When it does not, she drops her head again and resumes her slow circuit. The unease does not stem from spectacle or clamor. It arises from absence. No warning growl sounds when birds alight nearby. No sudden tension ripples through the grass. The terrain feels suspended, caught between states. The sun ascends higher, and the lion's breath becomes more evident than his form. A faint tremor across his ribcage confirms life, yet offers no comfort. The lioness regards him from where she lingers. Her gaze remains steady and unwavering, but her body does not incline toward him. Instinct commands her to remain vigilant, to preserve distance rather than diminish it. She sinks briefly to the earth, then rises once more, unable to settle. A muted noise escapes her throat, neither a summons nor a signal, merely breath passing through weariness. It dissipates swiftly, consumed by the hush. The lion stirs once, a slight repositioning of his forepaw that drags softly against the dirt. Dust rises, then resettles. The exertion demanded more than it should. His head stays lowered, mane pressed against his neck, eyes shut or perhaps merely half open. It is impossible to discern. Flies gather and scatter, alighting where his hide no longer responds. Time elongates in ways that render measurement futile. Minutes stretch, then dissolve. The lioness advances a few paces nearer, then halts again. She bends her head, scenting the ground, following his odor without making contact. Her ears twitch toward a distant noise that never quite materializes. The world provides no clear sign. Somewhere beyond sight, grass stirs in the breeze, but here the atmosphere remains thick. The lion's breath catches, then resumes more slowly now, more measured. The lioness finally bridges the gap enough to stand within touching distance. She does not prod him. She merely stands, her silhouette falling across his flank, bestowing shade without touch. A human voice, faint and borne from afar, fractures the silence just once. Easy, it murmurs, and then nothing follows. The lion does not raise his head. The lioness does not glance away. As the sun begins its gradual descent, light mellows across the plain. The heat releases its hold and the breeze returns in gentle gusts, swaying the grass in soft undulations. The lion continues to breathe. The lioness abides beside him. The earth exhales, lingering with them. Nothing concludes yet. The equilibrium persists, delicate and incomplete, poised between absence and endurance. As evening gathers without assurance, offering merely time, not resolution, and the quiet continues to keep watch over them in the cooling air alone. As the hours stretch onward, the reality of their state becomes clear. The lion's respiration slows further, each lift of his ribs more distinct, the hide along his flank taut from starvation. His tongue no longer seeks moisture. The lioness displays the same evidence of depletion. Her steps shortened, her halts extended, her frame always positioned to shield his face from sunlight when possible. They remain near each other now. When heat intensifies, she places herself between him and the rays, offering shelter with her diminished form. It is not calculated purpose, merely impulse shaped by connection. When flies gather excessively, her tail lifts once weakly before dropping again. He does not react, yet his breathing steadies for a time beneath her shadow. No trace of the pride appears. No distant calls answer the soft wind. The territory around them feels deserted, as if the landscape itself has removed its presence. Isolation weighs heavier than thirst. The lion attempts to rise once, all four limbs quaking as weight shifts forward, but the attempt fails before becoming motion. Dust swirls briefly, then resettles onto stillness. The lioness steps nearer, holding her ground, her form aligned toward the open terrain. She watches ceaselessly, not seeking prey, not watching for enemies, merely maintaining the boundary of his remaining territory. Her ears track sounds beyond vision. And when something foreign reaches her, her bearing stiffens despite weariness. Protection endures even when strength does not. Human figures materialize without announcement. No motors disrupt the silence. No abrupt motion startles the grass. The advance is gradual, considered, shaped by space and patience. Shapes stop far enough away to remain part of the scenery rather than intrusion. They observe first, allowing the creature's conduct to determine the moment. The lion does not raise his head. The lioness angles her frame subtly, weight shifting to her rear legs, alertness tempered by exhaustion. She does not move forward. She does not retreat. She holds. Water is set down quietly within access. Its surface quivering briefly before going still. No arms extend. No voices elevate. Only one gentle phrase crosses the distance, scarcely louder than a whisper. You're safe. The words fall without pressure, without anticipation, and fade into the atmosphere. The lion's nostrils twitch faintly. His tongue stirs once, tasting scent rather than moisture. Time passes before comprehension forms. The lioness lowers her head to the earth, then lifts it again, re-evaluating the altered configuration of their existence. Trust does not develop quickly. It creeps forward as delicate as their remaining stamina. Light begins to mellow as afternoon curves toward dusk. The wind returns in tender currents, lifting the grass around them. The lion stays grounded, breathing still present. The lioness remains upright, guarding the narrow space they inhabit. Between fading light and quiet patience, the connection persists, small and enduring, waiting for whatever the approaching hour delivers. Nothing else transforms, yet the waiting intensifies, steady and uninterrupted, as daylight diminishes further gradually. The man does not approach all at once. His progress unfolds in tiny stages. Each footstep placed with deliberation, each pause lengthy enough to permit the landscape to resettle. He maintains his form turned slightly aside, not presenting himself as obstruction or menace, merely another element in the open. The space between them stays intentional, ample enough to permit escape, near enough to be perceived. The lioness notices him instantly. Her ears drop, pressing against her skull, and her spine stiffens as though a thread has been pulled through her frame. She does not snarl. She does not advance. Her sinews retain tension without release. A vigilance that possesses nowhere to go. The lion stays where he lies, respiration shallow yet steady, his head lifting marginally before subsiding again. The man lowers himself gradually, bringing his stature nearer to the earth. He places the nourishment well short of their proximity, nudging it forward with care before withdrawing his hands entirely. Nothing is extended directly. Nothing is pressed into their area. The option remains accessible, visible, unhurried. The aroma reaches them first. The lion's nostrils expand slightly, drawing in the unfamiliar richness. His jaw tightens, then relaxes. Hunger stirs, not fiercely, yet with a muted persistence that has inhabited his frame for days. The lioness turns her head, testing the breeze, then looks back at him, her glance brief yet steady. She advances half a stride forward, then halts. Quiet stretches once more. No one stirs. The man remains motionless, his gaze lowered, his hands resting on his knees. His respiration slows, synchronizing with the silence he has entered. One soft phrase escapes him, scarcely carried on the breeze. It's okay. Nothing follows it. He does not reiterate. The lioness shifts her mass, claws pressing gently into the ground. Her tail moves once, a restrained gesture that conveys no purpose, merely tension. She does not approach the nourishment. She places herself slightly ahead of the lion, not obscuring his view, yet positioning her body where it has always belonged in times of uncertainty. The lion lifts his head again, this time more. His eyes open more completely, focusing past the food, past the man, scanning the borders of the space for threat. There is none. No abrupt movement. No constricting circle. The world remains as it was. Minutes pass without alteration. The sun descends further. Light softening into gentler shades. The man does not reclaim the space he has yielded. The creatures do not accept what has been presented. Still, something shifts nearly imperceptibly. The pressure in the lioness's shoulders eases by a degree. The lion's breathing steadies, no longer faltering between breaths. Trust does not materialize as certainty. It materializes as presence. The lion extends his neck slightly, stretching forward until his nose is nearer to the scent than before. He does not consume. He merely pauses there, balanced between requirement and caution. The lioness stays motionless, her gaze never leaving the man. Her form alert yet no longer tensed. The man waits. Within that waiting, something delicate maintains its form. No one progresses. No one pulls back. The interval between them remains intact, characterized not by dread, but by shared restraint. The terrain continues to respire around them, grass swaying softly in the evening breeze, insects returning in gentle numbers. Nothing is concluded yet the pause endures, steady and intentional, and within it the initial outline of trust begins to develop, not as guarantee, but as shared peace, carried gently into the cooling atmosphere as daylight proceeds its gradual withdrawal. The transformation does not declare itself. It appears first as a detail that does not align. A subtle shift in how the lioness positions herself when she settles her mass. Her abdomen moves differently now, curved in ways that hunger cannot solely account for. When she breathes, there exists a deliberateness to it, a protection that has nothing to do with the man or the open plain. Her sides quiver faintly, not from terror, but from effort sustained too long. Those observing do not draw nearer. They notice, and they wait. The lion remains on the earth, his attention drifting in and out, yet the lioness no longer traces her path around him. She lowers herself slowly, then rises again, unable to discover rest. Her tail flicks once, then again, brushing the dust as her frame tightens around something unseen. The reality settles gradually. Pregnancy born quietly through starvation and drought. Concealed by the same gauntness that nearly erased her vitality, her body has been accomplishing more than enduring. It has been sustaining life, diminishing itself bit by bit to shield what it could not surrender. Her respiration changes. It deepens, then abbreviates. She moves away from the lion for the first time, merely a few paces, selecting a shallow depression where the ground dips and the grass thins. She settles there, muscles trembling as they yield. The lion lifts his head, attentive now despite weakness, eyes fixed on her movement. No one intervenes. No one reaches toward her. The space stays open, respectful, ample enough for instinct to guide. The lioness presses her form low, sides drawing inward, then expanding again. A gentle sound escapes her, brief and uncontrolled, carried no farther than the grass surrounding her. The man remains where he is, motionless and silent. One quiet phrase leaves him without intention. Easy, girl. It is not direction. It is recognition. Time bends. The light continues to fade, turning the world amber and tender. The wind passes through the hollow, cooling the ground beneath her. Her muscles contract again, more force this time, and her head lowers until her chin touches the earth. What follows feels nearly impossible against the weight of what preceded. A small movement barely discernible at first. Then another existence arriving without ceremony, without sound beyond the rhythm of her breath. A cub darkened by birth, delicate and still for a moment that extends too long. The lioness turns immediately, strength gathering from somewhere beyond her visible reserves. She reaches with her tongue, cleaning, stimulating, coaxing motion where there was none. Her focus narrows completely. The lion watches, motionless, his respiration forgotten as the shape beside her stirs. The cub moves. A faint motion, a twitch of limb, a breath drawn shallow yet real. The lioness lowers her head over it, shielding it instinctively from open air, from sight, from everything. Her frame curves around the small form, creating space where safety can exist. Nothing else matters now. Not the food placed nearby, not the man waiting in stillness. Not even the failing light. The rescue has changed shape without warning. What was meant to preserve life has become witness to its arrival. The lion exhales slowly, his frame settling back into the ground, eyes never leaving them. The lioness remains curled around the cub. Her breathing uneven yet steady. Her exhaustion transformed into purpose. The land holds the moment gently. As the sun sinks fully, the grass darkens and the wind carries the first night sounds across the plain. In the hollow, a small body presses closer to warmth. And the lioness stays still, guarding the quiet miracle beneath her form as darkness arrives softly without interruption. Days do not restore everything at once. They return strength in fragments, measured and uneven. The lion rises first on the second morning, not fully, only lifting his chest from the ground and holding there until his breath steadies. His legs tremble beneath him, but they do not give way. When he lowers himself again, it is with intention, not collapse. The lioness watches, her frame still curved protectively around the cub, her head lifted higher than before. Water is taken cautiously now. Food disappears slowly, no longer untouched. The lion eats in short intervals, pausing often, lifting his head to scan the open space before continuing. His ribs remain visible, but the sharpness has softened. His breathing no longer labors against his chest. The lioness eats last, always after the cub has fed and settled, her attention never straying far from the small shape pressed against her belly. The cub's presence changes the rhythm of everything. It moves in brief, uncoordinated bursts, guided more by warmth and scent than sight. Its sounds are small and infrequent, thin threads of life woven carefully into the quiet. The lioness responds to each movement with gentle precision, adjusting her body, lowering her head, drawing the cub closer without haste. Exhaustion still lives in her muscles, but purpose now moves alongside it. Human figures remain at a distance. They come less often, and when they do, they stay farther away. Nothing new is placed on the ground. Nothing is taken. Their role thins until it becomes observation only, then less than that. One final pause, one last look taken from afar, and then they withdraw completely, leaving the space unaltered. The land fills the absence easily. On the fourth morning, the lion stands fully. His legs hold. He takes several steps forward, slow but deliberate, then turns back. The lioness rises with more effort, the cub tucked carefully beneath her, pressed close as she moves. Her steps are short, protective, but steady. She does not look back. They begin to walk. The pace is unhurried. The lion leads by only a body length, stopping often, waiting without signal. The lioness follows the cub hidden against her underside. Its small movements felt rather than seen. Grass brushes their legs. The wind carries familiar scents again. Somewhere in the distance, the land opens wide. There is no fanfare, no sense of ending, only continuation. As they move farther into the open plain, the space they leave behind closes gently. Footprints soften in the dust. The hollow where life arrived returns to grass and shadow. Nothing remains to mark what happened there. The sun lowers behind them, casting long light across their path. The cub shifts, pressing closer to warmth. The lion lifts his head slightly, testing the air ahead. The lioness follows without hesitation. In the quiet that gathers at the edge of day, gratitude does not announce itself. It settles instead, carried forward in steady steps, in lifted heads, in the soft, persistent movement of life returning to the land, unnoticed by all but the wind and the fading light.